right from the moment that we announced it, the community just rallied, and just there was a hype about it from the very beginning. And I think that's what we fed on that as creatives, and that's what made us so passionate about it, is seeing the community, seeing that they want it. And then when we did the Kickstarter, it was all the support, the money that was pledged. I think it was £68,000. It was mind-blowing to see that people wanted to support us to create this project. We were really blown away by it. The community is what it's all about, I think.
Sunray, being a story about veterans, should star veterans. The challenge then for us was we couldn't just pick a veteran off the streets and throw him in front of a camera. So we had to find veterans that had then become actors. It was pretty incredible to us because we hadn't really seen that side of things before. We've been filming things for a while, but what we hadn't seen is veterans that become actors. And it kind of opened our eyes to this world. It's surprising how many people in the military go on to get into the creative arts.
When you think of the creative industry, people don't think of veterans. The military itself is not a particularly creative place to be, that's very true. But that doesn't mean that there isn't incredibly talented, creative people in the military. And then when you combine that with all the values that the military instills in its people, to bring those people into the creative industry, people who are incredibly resilient, hardworking, and they're creative and talented as well. So things just get done. They make things happen. It's a great environment to be in.
We reached out and we found these guys. We had Tip Cullen, Tom Lee, Luke Solomon and Stephen Blades as our key cast. And all of them were former Royal Marines, and most of them had done some level of acting. And what that meant is that, first of all, they were really up for it because they could see what we were trying to do. They knew what it was, the story we were trying to tell, and we all spoke the same language. So as soon as we pitched the idea to them, they were straight on board.
It's helped the production so much. They bring so much to the party that perhaps a civilian actor might not be able to in this role. Because we're talking about veterans and the film is about veterans themselves being veterans, they can draw on their experiences, their deployments. They've lost friends, they've suffered with mental health themselves, so they can draw on those experiences for the more emotional aspects of the film. But also in terms of the tactical scenes as well, they already know the skills and drills, the TTPs, they know how to hold a weapon, they know how to clear a building. It makes life so much easier on the film set because we don't have to spend hours dry drilling them and training them how to handle weapons.
Anyone in the military knows that there's 1,000 ways to take down a building. So when you put a bunch of bootnecks together and say, right, this is how we're going to take down the building, everyone's got an opinion on how we should approach that room. And we've got 10 rooms to get through. There ends up being a bit of a debate about how you'd go through this door, how we'd move through this room, which is good because it meant that having those debates is how you make it better.
Veterans just get on with things. They see something that needs doing and they do it. No one just kind of stands around and no one just does their own job. Everyone just got involved. It was like being back in that Royal Marines environment, and a lot of people said that as well. It was they said it made them remember what it was like to be in the Corps, which was really amazing to hear.
Something from the Royal Marines that I've always been very fond of is the idea of the thinking man soldier. Ultimately, as a Marine, you are expected to take the initiative. You need to understand what's going on around you. You need to understand the job of the person above you, so that if they get hit, then you got to step in and step up and take on that role. And I think that's kind of similar to how we operated the set. It meant that people knew the job around them. They knew the job of the people above them, but they also were able to take the initiative. And we tried to encourage that initiative that people fought for themselves and were able to provide feedback or suggestions where it was necessary.
When we crafted the story for Sunray and kind of figured out what it was going to be, it was immediately the kind of mental health angle that really drew us all in, because this was an opportunity to create a platform to talk about mental health, but in a way that hadn't been done before. We wanted to create an action film. We wanted to create something really fun and entertaining. With it being a kind of military and veteran storyline, we wanted to tell that story as well, and we wanted to talk about mental health. And to combine the two is a really a natural thing to do.
We want people to enjoy it, but we also wanted to use that as a way to expose some people to something that they might not otherwise really think about with PTSD and mental health in veterans. And in creating something that is accessible and exciting and fun, it allows us to talk about it without being preachy and without making people have to feel a certain way about it. We can just present it to people that it's there, and what they take away from that is theirs.
When talking about mental health, people tread a very fine line. It's like a tightrope, isn't it? You can't say this, you can't say that. To then mix that in a film where we've got a lot of violence and action, and at times it is fun and entertaining, but that was our goal. It was to kind of mix these two together in a way that highlighted mental health to an audience that perhaps wouldn't normally tune into something like that or listen to something like that. So it was a way of talking about something that people maybe don't talk about by taking it almost mainstream.
The biggest challenge for me on Sunray was that we're a really small team, and that is something that we use to our advantage at times because we could be nimble, we could get in and out and do shoot efficiently, but it also meant that everyone was having to double hat or triple hat. We had lots of people doing multiple jobs, and it was long hours, and no one was getting any sleep.
I think the most challenging thing about making Sunray was, I don't think there was any one particular factor. It was more our lack of experience. So we are first-time feature filmmakers. We're first-time writers, first-time directors. So this is completely new territory for us. And I think the way we did it worked really well. We didn't make a film in the traditional sense. We did it our way. But there's a lot to learn when making a film. The most challenging thing was learning every step of the way. And I say that not in a negative way. It's such a, we learned so much from this process. I think we're very lucky to have experienced that and to learn those things, because I don't think many people get to see the whole filmmaking process and make decisions on the filmmaking process right from inception to delivery. I think to be able to do that on your first project is very rare.
I think my experience in the military definitely helped, primarily because of the resilience I learned through the armed forces and being up against it all the time, the ability to react to uncertainty and the ability to take the initiative when faced with challenges, and being able to do that quickly and not losing your head and staying positive as much as possible, but also realistic. And I think all of those are skills that I was taught through the Royal Marines, and I'm grateful for that.
I think creating Sunray in the first instance already meant a lot in terms of what we were talking about and the people that were involved. But I think over the 3 years that we've spent creating it, it's become to mean so much more. Because obviously we've got the themes that we talk about, but then also it's become our lives for the past 3 years.
We came up with the idea back in lockdown 2020, and it's just been a huge project and something I'm never going to forget, because it's the journey that we've been on with people that I've met people that are going to be friends for life now, and we've all been on this journey together to create something. And I think that doing that and creating something together has just been such an experience for me. I've never done anything of this scale before, and working with such a great crew and cast to all come together to do this one thing has given us all purpose, I think, and given us a goal to strive towards. And I think there's a lot to be said for, we talk a lot about mental health, and I think one of the things for me is that when you have a goal and you have something to fight for and to strive towards, it helps you focus your mind when you are struggling. And being part of a team that's doing something like that, and being part of a team that's working to something bigger than the individual, was, I think, what I needed, and I think it was what some of the other people needed as well.
With veterans, people do associate mental health and PTSD. It kind of comes hand in hand almost. But there's a lot of veterans out there who have been in those situations that don't have mental health problems and don't have PTSD. And there's a lot of people out there who have never been anywhere near that world who suffer from mental health. And I think that's what's kind of stood out with Sunray to me. It was a message that even though it's a military story at its heart, everyone can relate to it, because mental health can get to everyone.